Okay, we're getting really close to being able to make a game, but to make a game, what you have to do is make it so that when you play it, it's not the same every time. You want to not make it very predictable. So you want to introduce this idea of random. Random numbers are what we're going to talk about for the next couple of days. And the way the computer does random numbers is almost like it's not really truly random, but it's pretty good. It's pseudo-random. And what you have in front of the screen right now is how we're going to do random numbers in C#. There's a special class, special command that you have to start off when you use random numbers, and it's called random in capital letters. Then after that, you can make up any letter you want. R is a good variable that I like to always use with random numbers, and then you say new random. So you always start off when you're using random numbers in C# and you use that particular line. Then there are 3 techniques to generate random numbers. So like when you're making a dice game, right, you're going to want numbers between 1 and 6. If you flip coins, you want numbers between 1 and 2. And then there's all kinds of other things that you might want to do with random numbers. So the one that I like the best is this one, because it's the easiest to memorize and it's the easiest to use. So basically you go R, because that's the letter we used at the beginning, dot next, that's a special word, and then let's say we want numbers for a dice game, so they're between 1 and 6. So basically what you do is you put the lower number there and you write 1 more than the highest number there. Alright, so for instance, if we wanted like whole numbers between 1 and 1,000, what would you do? You'd go like this, R dot next, 1, 1,001. You always make it 1 more than what it is. What if you were playing a game and you needed a number between 20 and 36? This formula is really easy. It'd be R dot next, 20 would be the low number, and it's the 36, so you'd make it 37. Alright, so that's the basic idea, and now let's take a look at how you do it in a real computer program. Alright, so the first program we're going to look at is called Random Number Intro, and it doesn't do anything spectacular. It doesn't do any like really fancy games yet, but let's just get it going. So basically when you generate random numbers, they don't repeat, okay? They should be always different. Once in a while you get 2 that are the same, but that's the luck of the draw. Alright, here I'm just generating random numbers between 1 and 9, and there's all these different combinations here. You can have them be more specific, only between 1 and 6. So here's some numbers only between 1 and 6, so you don't see any 7s or 10s or anything. Here's another one, number between 7 and 20. Alright, so works pretty good. And then what if you were going to do heads and tails? Here's a little program that generates 100 flips of a coin, and then it tells you how many times you got heads and tails. Let's do it one more time. Whoa, this time you got a lot more heads than tails. Let's do it again. 50-50. That's what's supposed to happen most of the time, and obviously it doesn't always. Okay, now let's go into the underground and take a look at each program separately. So like I told you, every time you use random numbers, you have to start off and say that. And what that does is initialize the random number generator. Okay, now I'm using a list box, so that's why you see that command there. And we're going to make random numbers, and they're going to be whole numbers, so that's why I use the integer. And remember, like when we did arrays, everything you do with random numbers is probably going to be a loop, a for loop. Okay, so in this one I wanted to basically have the computer repeat itself 100 times, and that's how you do it. And all I wanted it to do was generate random numbers between 0 and 9. Okay, now you're going, sir, didn't you just show us another way? Yeah. So watch, I can change this to that, and that's how you do it the way I like to do it. The formula that I taught you is the best way, but there's always 3 different ways. And then all this does is add whatever your answer was to the list box. Okay, the second example only wanted numbers between 1 and 6. Okay, so again, this is the classic way to generate random numbers between 1 and 6. And again, remember I told you, you can do it the other way, which I think is my favorite. All right, 1, 7, and that generates 100 numbers between 1 and 1 and 7. Last example between 7 and 20. Okay, again, there's lots of ways to do it. This is my favorite. Okay, but either way, no matter which way you want to use it, that will generate a number between 7 and 21, or 7 and 20. Now, the last question, it's almost like you're doing a game. I'm telling the computer, do this experiment or do this game 100 times. Flip coins. And as you flip them, keep track of how many times you got a head and how many times you got a tail. So this is the best one to get us into what we're going to eventually do for the next couple of days, which is make games, numeric games, with random numbers. So let me double click on this one, and this is the most important one. So in this one, we're keeping track of heads and tails. So at the beginning of your program, you make them both 0 to start off, right? Then, like I showed you, you tell the computer, wake up random number generator, I'm going to use you in a second. Then this is the part that's going to be different every time we do a computer program. In this one, I want to play this game 100 times. Some other games you're going to play 1,000,000 times or 10 times. It depends on the game. So this is how you tell the computer, flip a coin. And you're going, flip a coin? How does it 1 and 3, sir? Well, remember, coins only have 2 possible choices, a head or a tail. So we're really picking numbers between 1 and 2, and that's how you pick a number between 1 and 2. And then you just make this up yourself. I decided that if it's a 1, it's going to be a head. If it's a 2, I mean if it's not 1, right, it's got to be a 2, then it's a tail. And remember what this means. What the computer is doing is adding up heads, so it's going to be 1, and then the next time it'll be 2 and 3 and 4 and 5 until it gets to the number of numbers for the heads. At the very end of this whole process, we print out our answers. Okay? Now I'm going to use this example to help us do some of the seat work that I was going to assign for this particular lesson. So let's go back to the sheet that you would have gotten today to do this, these questions. Okay, so let's go down here. So there's a couple of games I wanted to try out here, and the first one, it says suppose 2 players are playing a game, and basically you're doing this dial thing that goes from 1 to 9. I want to keep track of how much the first player gets on the dial game and how much the second player gets on the dial game, and then get like who won the most after 10 times. Alright, so that's a key to it. So what I'm going to do this game, I'm going to basically copy and paste this program. Alright, and then obviously we're going to have to change it. Alright, and that's what I always like to do if you're not sure of yourself, right? So let's just slide these up here a little bit. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is there's going to be 2 players. So instead of heads and tails, we're going to have a player 1 and player 2. Alright, and we're not going to toss stuff, we're going to spin stuff. Alright, still going to use random numbers. They tell us to play this game 10 times. So instead of 100, I'm going to make it 10. Now, there's like 2 separate players, right? So the first time you toss, it's for the first guy. So the numbers can be between 1 and 9, so that you put a 10 there, right? Now, this is where it gets a little bit different. Alright, so basically this is the toss for the first guy, right? And then basically what I do is I go, hey, player 1, this is what you got. Now we do basically the same thing again. Alright, now you notice if I say toss, I should change that to toss, right? Or spin, yeah, right. So that's, I should change that to spin then. Okay, so just to make it match. There's spin and spin. Toss was for the coin one. Equals r dot next, and then 1 comma 10. And then player 2, he gets whatever he tossed or spun on this particular thing. So let me go back up here. I'm getting mixed up with my spins and tosses because we've been copying and pasting, right? So I want to change it. That's it. That's the game. We're basically done. All right, at the end here, what we do is we tell the computer how much you got. So that's player 1's totals. Okay, and this is going to be player 2. And that is obviously going to say player 1. And this is player 2. So very quickly we've created our first simple game. Now we've got an error. Let's take a look at semicolon. Alright, so we fix that up and we give it a run. And when we run it, so player 1 got 51, player 2 only got 10. Whoa. Let's try it again. Player 1 got 10. How come he keeps getting 10? How come he keeps getting 10? Player 2, 1 to 1. Alright, we've got to change that, obviously, make it a 10. Alright, now we'll try it. And that's better. Let's do it again. Do it again. Okay. You want to make this a little bit better? You can also, at the very end of this, figure out who won. By going like this, you can go if player 1 is greater than player 2, you can have like a message box. Player 1 wins. I guess there could be a tie. Let's pretend there isn't for now. But there could have been. Else if player 2 is greater than player 1, squiggly line, message box dot show player 2 wins. Okay, so you're starting to put together a simple, you know, not graphical obviously, but a basic little game. Here we go. Player 2 won. Yeah, that's right. Try it again. Player 1 wins. See, it's 54-48, and that's the basic idea. Okay, to finish off this lesson, what I want to do is take up number 2, and then we'll take up number 3 in the next video. So in this one, I want to roll dice this time. Okay, slightly different game. And I want to figure out how many times I got lucky 7, and I'm going to roll the dice 50 times, and then keep track of how many times 7 was rolled in those 50 times. Okay, so like I did in the other example, I'm just going to copy and paste my heads and tails question into problem number 2. Okay, some of it's going to change, some of it isn't. All right, so in this one we're keeping track of lucky 7, right? And I'm going to roll 2 dice. So let's start off, and we'll have like a dice 1, and we'll have a dice 2. All right, and then we're going to have like a total, right, of what they add up to. Okay, and we're ready to go. So pick a random numbers. That's what we're going to do now. They want us to do this game 50 times. So you see how the loop changes to 50 instead of 100. And to do dice, we're going to need to do it twice, right? Because we're going to roll 2 numbers. Okay, so here's how you roll 2 dice. You pick numbers between 1 and 6. Remember, you always make it 7, one more than what it is. Now, after you roll these 2 dice, we got to figure out what they add up to. So you go total equals dice 1 plus dice 2. Okay, now if you get what you want, and what do you want? Well, you want lucky 7. So you go like this. You go if the total equals 7. Great, that's exactly what I wanted. Now I need some sort of counter. So actually I got to go back up here, and I'm going to have C7 equals 0. That's going to be our 7 counter. All right, so we'll go C7 equals C7 plus 1. All right, and we keep going. Now, eventually, we're done the 50 times, and then we do our printout for our answer. Okay, so what we do is after you total the 2 dice together, you see if they added up to 7. If they did, count it. And then the computer goes back up, rolls 2 more dice, adds them up, checks if there's 7. Eventually, you've done it 50 times, and you tell the computer the total number of times 7 was rolled is, and then you print out the answer right there. Let's take a look at it when you run it. Okay, so press number 2. Oh, didn't make it wide enough. Not a problem. All right, let's go back in here, widen this up a bit. All right, you could also turn the scroll bars on if you want, but I'm just going to widen it like that. That should be more than enough room. Okay, let's try it again. There it is. Total number of times 7 was rolled, so 14 times out of 50. You rolled lucky 7. That's pretty good. 7 times, 9 times, 7, 12. Okay, looks like 14 was the most you ever rolled. Okay, so that's the basic answer to that one. So you're starting to get an idea of the kind of thinking you do in your mind when you're making, right now, numeric games, and then these can be translated, obviously, and you use these ideas when you start moving objects so they don't always show up on the same screen when you're going to do games with graphics.